I'll try not to.
Hello, everyone. Yes, welcome to CUPPA CHAT. This is the series where we put your questions to some of the best professionals around. And today is no different. We have got Panto royalty with us today. I tell you, I'm so excited, and I absolutely loved working with this gentleman a couple of years ago. I'm talking about the one and only Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hello, everybody. I wouldn't quite call me a
Welcome.
gentleman, but thank you for that intro.
One of my favourite people to work with, then I'll call you.
Oh, bless you. Checks in the post.
Well, we did. We had a good time, didn't we, together? We were at the castle.
Yeah, it was a very stressful time for me, and I had bronchitis during the whole run. But yeah, it was a lovely show. Really good panto.
Yeah, we had a really nice time, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later on as well. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you guys for sending your questions in. We've had lots and lots of questions, which is absolutely fantastic. But Paul, the most important question of the day, of the whole CUPPA CHAT episode is, what cup of drink have you got today?
Oh, I've got a lovely cup of coffee in my Terry the Toucan mug.
Wow, that has to be the best mug we've seen so far. And do you have white coffee? Do you have any sugar with it?
I have white coffee. I don't have any sugar anymore. Okay. When I was little, I used to have 5 sugars.
Oh, my word.
5 sugars in my tea and coffee, which is why my teeth are so bad now. Yeah, I don't have any sugar now, so I'm being a good boy.
You're being a good boy now. That's good. We like to promote being healthy, and I mean, yeah, I only have 2 sugars, so I'm not too bad when I have drink. I've got blackcurrant today in my Coral Island Blackpool mug, which is a pirate. So there you are.
Very good. I can't wait until theme parks are open again.
I know. It's exciting. Paul, are you coming with us? Are you coming with us?
Oh, I will do. Put me on a Big Dipper and I'm anybody.
Oh, perfect. Oh, you're coming to, I can't mention certain theme parks, but I can say that when we go to one, we'll go on one together then, shall we?
Very good, very good. I'm looking forward to it already.
I'm looking forward to this already, this one. Paul, like everyone so far, I have made you a special invention that I think might help you with the rest of your career, really. I don't think you're going to be able to not use it. So would you like to see what I've made for you?
Oh, yes, please.
Perfect. Right. Don't get too carried away, because this one is going to blow your mind. This is called the Sweat Oh Wig. So here we are. It's this, oh dear, it's all falling to pieces. This is the Sweat Oh Wig. So Paul's just shaking his head at me.
My word.
This is a Panto Dame wig that's made of towels. So I understand, Paul, and you can tell us that when you wear these wigs and so on, it all gets a little bit hot and sweaty. But if you have a towel that's made out the wig, all the sweat will just go into the towels and you're sorted.
Sorted. Send it to me in the post. How much is it? Do I get it free?
You can have it for free for coming on and doing this. Is that all right?
Yeah, lovely. I'll wear it with pride.
Wear it at your next panto. Look, I've now ruined my hair now, you see. So
I'm doing panto in Canterbury this year.
Yes.
The Malthouse Theatre, which is a new theatre in Canterbury. It only opened in 2019, but then of course in 2020 we went into lockdown. Yeah. So I was due to do Beauty and the Beast last December, but obviously that got cancelled. So we're now doing it this year with a slight change of cast.
Yeah, wonderful. And I'm going to ask you more about what's coming up and what's going on and what you've done. But that's really good to know that Panto is still, fingers crossed, is going ahead this coming year, because we did miss it last year, didn't we?
Yeah, really did. If ever I don't do a Panto, which has only been a couple of times since I turned pro, because I was doing musicals in December instead of the Panto. If I don't do Panto, I really, really miss it.
Yeah.
You know, it's one time of the year that if you're a performer and you're more on the sort of like variety musical sort of area, that's the one thing you look forward to. And by March, if you haven't got Panto by March, you sort of, oh, you know, you get really, really worried.
Yes.
So now that I know that my Panto is sorted, doing the one that I should have done last year, it takes a lot of pressure off me.
Yeah, yeah, that's really you know, it does take a lot off your sort of brain when you go, right, I've sorted Christmas out, I know what I'm doing. And yeah, definitely. Well, we've had lots of questions, as I said, sent in for you, Paul, which is wonderful. A lot of people, I think, remembered you from being with us in Wellingborough as well at the castle, seeing you all over the place. So we've got a few questions about that. So we've got 15 minutes. I'm going to start the clock and ask you, let's go right back to the beginning. We had this question come in, which is, how did you get into acting? So you kind of started on that. So let's ask you, how did you get into acting?
Well, when I was at school, I used to always do the school concerts, and we did a major musical every year. So I'd always sort of be in those. And when I was young, I was thin and I was pretty. So then I was playing like the juvenile lead in the school shows. Now I'd never get away with it, of course, but that's how I got sort of the interest of being in shows. And then how I got started professionally was that one of the girls that I was in The King and I with, she got a dancer's job in summer season. So I went to see her doing the show, and the producer just said to me afterwards, I've got one more part to cast in the Panto. Would you fancy doing a quick audition for it? So I thought, wow, yes, please. So there and then, I read a few lines for him. He signed me up, and I did my first professional Panto in 1984.
Oh, wow.
It was as easy as that.
Yeah.
Really easy as that.
So it really does. We've heard this a couple of times. It really does sometimes know who you know and how much of a sort of experience you're you know, like you do work experience to gain to become a vet. It's the same with theatre, isn't it, Ben?
Exactly. I mean, I know lots of people that are now doing Dame that started off doing stage management, but they get into that arena of people that they get to know, people that they like working with, and they like working with them. And it is a lot of it, especially in Panto, is you'll see the same people doing the same parts because the producer knows that they can do it and they're reliable, and they'll just get on and do a wonderful performance. So in that sense, nowadays, because there's lots of stock Panto performers that are well known in that pantomime world, it's quite difficult to break into it unless you're established.
Yeah, totally agree. And we've got some questions about that, actually. Let's ask that one now then, as it's come up. How do you get into, do you have any advice for anyone who's trying to get into Panto for the first time then? Because you say, I found this, and I've been working obviously in theatre for donkey's years, but actually breaking into that Panto is quite difficult. Luckily, I'm now there. But what would you say, Paul, for someone who's trying to get into it?
I would say, first of all, if you're still at school, join your local drama group, especially groups that do pantomime, because even nowadays, lots of colleges and universities and things like that, they don't concentrate on pantomime. Pantomime is one of the biggest employers in this country, performance-wise, and lots of people, they come into it and they haven't got a clue because they've not been taught it. Yes, they know what a Panto is, and they can go and watch it and experience, you know, that genre, but to actually be capable of doing that style of work and 2 shows every single day. I mean, this year I've got 3 shows, quite a lot of 3-show days. It takes stamina. And even after all these years that I've been in the business, I still have to hawk myself around. I still have to sometimes audition. I tend not to have to audition for Panto because lots of producers know my work in Panto, and I tend to get booked just on that. So I don't have to do Panto auditions anymore, or far and few between. But I would say, join a local group, learn as much as what you possibly can, watch everybody else, go and see lots of Pantos, see the way that different performers do it. And I know lots of people that are in the Panto world now, and they play things like Prince or Dandini, and like you as well. I know you'd love to play Dame, you'd love to play Ugly Sister. So it's just keep chopping away at that, and keep your name being bandied about, and do lots of social media, you know, put some makeup on, put a wig on, get those photos around, get your name seen as that thing, as an ugly sister or a dame, and trust me, you'll be seen for it.
Yeah, definitely. And does that comes back to as such full circle what you were saying earlier, Paul, that then even if it's an amateur group or a youth theatre, if they're doing panto, is that still the right thing? Go and do those sort of pantomimes before professional level, because you're not going to just jump in, are you? Really, you've got to, as you say, earn your sort of way. Is that the right thing to go and do it at amateur level?
I would say so, because I learned so much when I was in the amateur shows. I mean, I'm talking back in the 70s now, the 1970s, a long time ago, but I learned so much. I learned what upstage was, downstage was, and stage left, stage right, and prompt corner, OP, opposite prompt, and all things like that. You learn lots of technical terms that you're going to hear once you get into the business.
Yeah.
So that's the best experience I think you can have. Before you either go to college, or even if you don't go to college, if you've got the experience and the talent, you will get the jobs.
Yeah, definitely. And I found that. I went to youth theatre myself and did a load of experience, got involved with the Christmas shows as part of the juveniles and the ensemble chorus. And as you say, you learn it from such a young age, and it does make a difference when you're then older. So good question, whoever sent that in, thank you. Paul, someone's asked, have you ever played any other characters in pantomime? Because we saw you as the ugly sister, obviously in Wellingborough, they must be talking about.
I have. My very first pantomime in 1984, I played the Genie of the Lamp. Cool. I don't think I was right for that part, but obviously I got it and I did it, and it was a wonderful experience. I remember writing to my headmaster while I was doing the panto, because he used to direct all the shows that I did at school and that. And I said, the opening set is just as if you're in China, as if you're in Peking. It was my first experience of like proper stage scenery, professional scenery. And it was just amazing. I was just like, oh, and I used to stand in the wings and watch those performers that had been in the business 20, 30 years and just try and absorb as much as what I possibly could. Wonderful experience seeing these old pros. Now, of course, I'm an old pro, but I can remember it like it was yesterday, just stood there watching everything that they did.
I weren't going to say anything, Paul, but I think I stood in the wings watching some of you. I won't say. And then, so you did the Genie. Did you ever get to did you go through the stage of being the comic? A lot of people say you become the comic and then the dame, or did you get to be the dame straight away as such?
I never did the comic. I mean, I'm not naturally funny in that sense of being a comedian. Obviously, playing dame, you have to be comedic, but to actually sort of go out there and do gags and be really, really funny and hold the audience as the comic does, that's very difficult. I wouldn't want to do that. But I've played other parts, sort of like the Emperor of China and Squire Skinflint, which was a bit of a baddie. That's the only other parts I've played. Other than when I first started, I did a lot of chorus work in the pantos. I, obviously doing a lot of the dancing because I was thin, and in those days you'd go to an audition for a dancer's part in the panto, and you'd only see about 5 boys auditioning where there'd be 100 girls. So it was quite easy for a boy to get into panto dancing in those days, because I was never a proper dancer. I can move, but I wouldn't class myself in the league of proper professional dancers in panto. So I did chorus for a number of years, understudied Ugly Sister, then did Ugly Sister, and then went on to do Dame.
Great. I laugh because I don't cast myself as a dancer at all. And we were talking to a lovely lady called Megan the other day, who is a panto dancer, and I was, she was our dance captain, and she was saying that everyone can dance as long as you put character into it. You can sort of get around it that way. That's what I class myself as. Great. Let's ask this question, because we've got loads of questions, so I want to get through as many as we can. How did you become a dame in panto? I think I took this question that they are talking about how you become the character. Do you have to do the same research as you would for any part, or is there you have to watch videos? Tell us the process of when you're becoming those Dame characters.
Well, when I first started, we didn't have things like social media, so you couldn't watch YouTube or anything like that. You just had to physically go and see a pantomime and sort of see how the dames did it. So I learnt a lot from watching other people when I was young. I just think if you're doing Dame or Ugly Sister or any part in Panto, you have to make the character sit comfortably with you. So don't try and copy anybody else. Be your own performer, be your own Dame. And I think then it will sit naturally with you and you'll enjoy it. If you try and copy somebody, I don't think you'll ever make it. It's like I grew up watching people like Dick Emery, Les Dawson dressing up as women, and I was in hysterics as a kid watching these programs with my family, but I could never emulate them. You know, I could never be them. So you have to find your own Dame.
Yeah, definitely.
But the best thing, like I said before, is go and watch the pantos, see how people do it, and then like the old days where you get a hairbrush and you got the mic as a microphone, looking in the mirror, do that and find your own sort of like performance level. That's the best advice I can sort of give to make it sit right with you.
Yeah, and you know, as you say, you wouldn't play I don't know, you wouldn't play Peter Pan and want to always be like the Disney character, would you? You'd want to bring your own stuff in. So exactly the same for the Dame characters. Someone asked, which leads on nicely, which pantomime Dame is the best to play? Is it better to play a goodie, or is it better to play a baddie Dame? Because there's obviously lots of different kinds. We're talking about Ugly Sister a lot because that's who you were in Wellingborough, but there's lots of different types, isn't there?
Yeah, I prefer playing a Dame rather than Ugly Sister, because the Dame, you can be lovable and comedic and warm and get the audience on your side. With the Ugly Sister, obviously you're going to get booed, and I love being booed, but you've always got that thing where you've got an important line to get over and the audience are booing and you just want them to shut up, but then you also don't want them to shut up. You know, you want them to boo you. So it's like that, and you're thinking sometimes, shh, I want to get my next line out, you know, otherwise the show will never end. So I do prefer playing the sort of like the goody Dame.
I'm just laughing because I can't remember what the line was, Paul, but can you remember we were standing side by side in Cinderella, and there was one of those moments where the audience was booing you and the other Ugly Sister, it was lovely Chris, and they were just, and you were just like, will you just be quiet? Because it was quite an important line, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How do you get round that then? Like, we've spoken a bit about this before, and this is one of your questions as well. Do you get fed up with being booed on stage? What do you do to get them to shut up, in other words?
I never get fed up of being booed when I'm playing Ugly Sister. That's what you want as a baddie. And the louder the boos, the better, because then the audience just get wrapped up in that moment, and it's escapism for everybody. And you know, when we do the school shows and you've got 700 school children in the audience screaming at 10 o'clock in the morning, to get them to shut up because they're so wrapped up in getting involved in the story and booing the baddie, to get them to shut up is sometimes difficult. But I tend to do something like, you know, or that sort of thing. So that's slightly baddie, you know, you're going to get your head chopped off if you don't shut up, you know, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword, because you want them to boo you, but you also want to get your lines out and you want to get into the bar after the show, you know.
Yeah. Who is your favourite? Who's your favourite good Dame then that you've played? Because are you playing? I mean, I might be wrong, but are you playing a good Dame this coming Christmas then in Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah, I'm playing a traditional Dame in Beauty and the Beast. My favourite Dame is Widow Twankey, and
cool.
Aladdin has always been my favourite pantomime. I think that's because that was my first professional one, so it's got so many good memories for me that Aladdin is my favourite. Widow Twankey is the part that I love doing. The only Dame I've never done is Mother Goose. I've done all the other Dames, so I'd love to do Mother Goose at some stage.
And
she turned beautiful at the end of Act 1.
Yes, yeah. And what's your Dame called again this Christmas coming?
My dame this year is called Dame Mona Lot.
That's it, Dame Mona Lot. And is she, because am I right in saying, I know the answer to this question, but I'm saying it for everyone else. Am I right in saying you've written this one and this character of you?
I did, yeah. I wrote the whole panto. Yeah.
So is she a very lovable sort of character that she's coming out in? Is she?
She is. She's daft. Her costumes are a bit more regal because she works up at the castle for the beast, who obviously turns out to be the prince. So she's got a bit more money than your normal run-of-the-mill dame.
Normal dame.
I'll be a bit more glamorous this year, yeah.
And you're absolutely fine with that, aren't you? Because you get more glamorous costumes, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I'll never be a pretty dame. I make an ugly, woman.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, no, I do, honestly. But my costumes will be more flamboyant and bigger, and it's set in France. So we've got a couple of scenes where we have like can routines and things like that. All sort of like French touches throughout the show.
Yeah, lovely.
At one point, I'll be dressed like a French poodle and that sort of thing. So.
There you are. You see, well, I tell you what, me and Laura will come and see you because we hopefully will. Well, if I'm not obviously in Panto myself, but when we'll come and see what you're up to as well. Paul, one more question about sort of makeup and so on and costumes we've been talking about. Someone said, what time do you have to get into the theatre to start having your makeup put on? A lot of people think you have a makeup artist. Is it like that, or do you have to do it yourself?
No. When I was in the amateur shows, obviously there was a makeup woman that used to come and do everybody's makeup. In the pro world, most dames, in fact, I would say every dame does their own makeup. So find the makeup that suits you. I normally get into the theatre about an hour and a half before the show to do my makeup, but I've got it down to a fine art. If I've got friends coming to see the show, either a matinee or an evening, and we've got a few hours break in between shows, we might go for a meal. So I'll have to take all the slap off, go for the meal, and then get back to the theatre for the half, and then, rapidly do my makeup in 15 minutes. So it can be done, but I do prefer to do it leisurely if I can. So normally about an hour and a half before the show, but do all the makeup myself. And I've stayed with the same makeup for Ugly Sister and Dame all these years. I've never been able to manage false eyelashes. Never been able to do that. So I tend to just do like a black line over the top of my eyes. Just can't get on with them. Same with heels. I can't work in heels. I can't work with false eyelashes. So I've got my boots, and comfortable that they are, I just use them.
And I feel very, very privileged to, and I say this because a lot of you saw us in the carnival. Me and Paul did Uglies together, didn't we? And we had a lovely afternoon of getting all the makeup. You taught me how you did your makeup, and we did it together that day.
We did Wellingborough Carnival, and I just remember walking for about 5 miles, something like that. My feet were killing me by the end of it, absolutely killing me.
And it was the hottest day of the year, weren't it, as well?
Yeah, and we were in sort of like, fake fur costumes, with big wigs and hats and that. Yeah, but it was a lovely day.
It was.
It really sort of like gave me a good introduction to the Wellingborough people. And how community-based they are. Yeah, it was really nice.
Perfect. Now, Paul, at this point in the show, I've told her many a times that we don't really want her, but she always comes in, and you know who she is because you work with her as well. I'm, of course, talking about Laura. Laura is
the
Paul.
Lovely
Paul
Laura. Oh, bless you. When we did the panto, you were excellent when you stood in for stage management. You were so efficient.
Oh, see how lucky you are.
Oh, Paul, don't make her head any bigger, for goodness sake, I tell you. Laura, you've got a question for Paul, haven't you?
I do. And now I've obviously seen you dressed as an Ugly Sister and Dame, but what is your best costume that you have worn and why?
Oh, well, over the years, I've worn a lot of my own costumes that were made for me by my friend Susan Hale. So I've worn those. So my favourite one that I've worn of my own is probably the turquoise ball costume, which is like 6 foot wide pannier with loads of sequins and frills. I really love that. But I've got 2 more costumes being made for me for this year by Paul Shriek. who's doing 2 new costumes, and they're going to be quite spectacular.
Ooh.
So I'm really looking forward to putting them on this year. But I think I've got really nice attachment to my ball costume.
I can remember. Is that those big, long, wide ones that you wore?
The big wide ones.
Yeah.
You have to
Where you
turn
have to go
sideways.
You had to go
Sideways.
sideways through the doors. Yes.
Yeah, I either have to turn sideways or duck with all my costumes, going
Yes.
through doors.
And I think it's lovely that you've just mentioned who's made your costume, because you forget actually when you see the characters on stage and you see the promotional stuff that someone's actually made those costumes, and they deserve as much credit as we do for wearing them and putting the characters on. Yeah.
There's a lot of hard work goes into costumes. You have to design them, and obviously with Susan, when she made my costumes, I'd sort of have meetings with her, tell her my ideas, then she'd sort of do a sketch and make them. So much talent.
Yeah,
I wish I could sew. I really wish I could sew, because I've got the ideas in my head, and I'd love to be able to sew and make them myself. But I've got every respect for costume makers. Yeah,
definitely. Me too. Well, good question, Laura. Thank you. She's off now. Paul, we've got time for a couple more quick fire questions to finish off with today. Someone asked, I thought this was quite cute, what is it like seeing your face on a poster?
Shall I tell you what? I still get excited to this day when I see my photo on a poster or a flyer. I can't take my eyes off it for days and days and days. When I've got it in my hand, I just look at it. If I get it emailed to me, I'll keep going back to it and looking at it again. And that's not being big-headed. It's just, it still excites me to this day that I'm there on the poster. And like yourself, when we had those big billboards, on like motorways and the streets, and we were on the side of a bus shelter, things like that. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, because you feel so proud that your picture's there. And like, if you're playing Dame or an ugly sister, they're not going to see my normal face, so they're never going to recognize me as me. Do you know what I mean? They'll just see an ugly sister or a dame. But it still excites me to this day. I get so excited when I see those designs. I really do. Yeah, and sometimes I've even emailed the designers before they've come out and said, please, can I have a sneak? A sneak peek at the flyer. And most of them have done. So yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Do you get excited?
I do, yes. It makes you feel very proud. I'm glad you said that. It makes you feel proud that you are making people smile. And when you see that around and then people go, oh yes, I went to see that. And they, as you say, sometimes they don't know that you're there and you're the one that's on the poster, and they walk past and they're like, that was really good, wasn't it? I like the Dame, I liked Cinderella, whoever it was. I like the Lion from the Wizard of Oz, it's nice, isn't it? It is nice. It's not big-headed.
No, it's not big-headed at all. It's like with anything, like, if you worked in an office and suddenly your photo appears on their website, it's a moment to be proud as well, because you're being recognized for doing your work. And there's been a few shows, few pantos where I've not been on the poster, and that's fine too. It's the producer's decision. They can't put every character on the poster. And especially if you're working with like big celebrities, obviously they take precedent who goes on the poster. So I'm fine with all that. But when I see my face next to a celebrity,
it's exciting, isn't it?
Absolutely love it. Yeah.
Paul, someone said, how many pantos have you been in? That's probably a very hard question. Or do you know off your hand?
I would say probably about 30. I've been professional 36 years. So odd years, I was in the musicals, like I said. So I would say I've probably done about 30 pantos.
And I know this sounds a silly question, especially someone who works in the business, but maybe for some of you guys watching at home, are they all different, or do you sort of go, oh, it's Christmas again, here we go?
They are all different, because obviously you have a different script and different style that producers like. But I think in all those years, I've only ever done Dick Whittington once. And I think Dick Whittington is a very good panto, and I'd love to do it again sometime. But yeah, it's really, really hard, because a lot of them blend in. So I'm like, if someone asks me, oh, when you did Mother Goose, and you think you've done 3 Mother Gooses, you know, not as Mother Goose, but in the pantomime, and you have to think back like 30 years, and some of them do blend into each other. Like I did Cinderella on the trot for about 4 or 5 years, and I said, oh, please don't offer me Cinderella again next year. You know, it's a beautiful panto. We all know it's a beautiful story, and it's the most well-known pantomime. But it's like, I can't go through doing Ugly Sister again.
No.
You know? So have a couple of years break, do a Dame, and then go back to Ugly Sister. So a lot of them do melt into each other, and you'll suddenly see someone, like if I go into the West End, I'll meet someone that I've worked with like 25 years ago, suddenly bump into in the street, and you think, oh, what show did I do with them?
Yes.
So, you know, there's all that sort of, if you've done a lot of them, some of them do blend.
Yeah, definitely. And one final question, Paul. Someone's put, I thought this was a good one for you. How many costume changes does a Panto Dame or Ugly Sister normally do in a Christmas show?
Well, I'm a traditional Dame, so I like a different costume for every entrance. That stems back to when I started in the business, and that was the thing that Dames did then. So I normally have about 10 to 12 costume changes per show. And when I first started, and if we didn't have a dresser, I used to be able to get my arm behind my back and sort of do my own zip up. As I'm older and less agile, you know, having a dresser is such a wonderful thing, because they take the pressure off the quick changes. You'll find when you're doing Dame, if you've got all those changes, when you're off stage, you know, you're changing costume. So you never stop during the show. When I did parts like the Emperor, I'd have 3 costumes. So that was bliss. You could settle in your dressing room, have a break, and then not have to rush to get to the scenes. When you're doing Dame, you've got all those changes, and if your zip goes, then that's the difference between getting on stage or not. It really is. It's so tight. You never have time to settle in the wings and watch the scene before you go on. You're literally costume off, costume on, in the wings and on.
And on again.
Occasionally, like on the first day of Panto, of performances, sometimes as a Dame and an Ugly Sister, you're in the wings and you're thinking, what scene is this? And you're thrown on and you have to go into it. If you look back to the first day of Wellingborough, because I directed it as well, the last person I had to get right was me. So I thought about everybody else, getting them right, getting them up to performance standard, as well as all the technical side. So on the first day when I went on, there was some scenes where I didn't have a clue. You know, maybe the audience might not have known that, but the cast and the crew certainly did, and I did. We still did a performance, but it was touch and go, because, as I say, the last person you think of if you're directing and you're also in the pantomime is yourself. So, and then of course I had bronchitis for the whole run because I was run down. You know. You still go on. You know.
It's when I was in London last year, we had Cinderella again. Someone did a video of them coming off stage, getting changed, as you say, into a new outfit, and the time they'd finished, they were on the stage again. It is so true what you say. They didn't have a moment to even breathe, bless them.
I don't know if it was Wellingborough, but in the trying on of the slipper scene, where of course I'm on the chair and about to have Dandini put the glass slipper on me. I think it was Wellingborough where my zip had gone on one of the costumes. So either somebody held it behind my back or I held it back. I think it was.
Well, you covered it very well, because obviously I was the one in the slipper on your shoe. So on your foot, I should say.
This is where, because you've done Cinderella so often, this is where they all blend into each other. Which panto did that happen in, you know?
And I tell you what, Paul, I weren't going to say, but it was very strange, because I did exactly the same version of the script 2 years in a row, and obviously, like, you weren't there, but there was someone else. It was very strange. You say it all starts mixing together.
That's right. And also, if you're doing the same script but with a different director, all your blocking is different anyway. So,
and your character's different.
Fresh again, and they want you to do the character in a different way and things like that. But you came to the table with a performance straight away on day one, so that made me very happy.
Bless him. Look, I'll pay you. I'll tell you what, we'll pay each other now. We've given each other a compliment.
Fantastic.
Well, Paul, and thank you everyone for sending your questions in. We're sorry we didn't get to ask all of them, but it's been really interesting. Hopefully our conversation has inspired you to go and become a dame or get involved in panto or something like that. Paul, we've got one more thing to do now. It's time for the game to see how many drinks that you can name within 30 seconds. I know this is the bit you've been looking forward to. You've got to beat 27 points within 30 seconds. So this is saying as many different drinks as you can within the 30 seconds. That is currently held by our lovely tour and panto actor Fee even. And when in second place, we've got Victoria with the Mousetrap, from the Mousetrap with 26 points. And then we have got the lovely George in third place with 25 points. Now, Paul, you need to beat more than 11, which is the lowest score we had last time, which was the last episode we had with our lovely voice actor and set designer, Kieran, who wasn't very good. He admits it. He got 11. Do you think you can beat 11 at least?
I'll try to. Can I do like different coffees?
Of course you can. Yeah, we've had, I tell you what, Paul, we can see what people have really liked for this last 30 seconds. It all normally starts off very posh and then all the wine comes out and all. Yeah, so you say what you want. I'll write them down. You've got 30 seconds starting from now.
Tea, coffee, milk, cappuccino, latte, hot chocolate, orange squash, lemon squash, orange juice, Coca-Cola, sarsaparilla, whiskey, gin, vodka, Bailey's, Grand Marnier, Cointreau, Lucasade, Iron Brew, Tizer. Do they still make Tizer? Haven't a clue. Have I said water?
And stop the clock. No, you didn't say water, but I'll allow water for you. That was pretty good going. That was. I think you've done yourself quite proud just then. How many do you think you got?
20.
Yeah, not bad. You got 21.
Ooh.
That was very good. That puts you in fourth place.
Fantastic.
It means you don't win anything, but you got fourth place.
But I get my wig thing,
but
don't I?
You do get your wig thing.
Soak up my sweat. Yeah.
Soak up your sweat.
So I've won.
You've won, really. Oh, Paul, it's been so lovely to speak to you. Tell us once again where you are this Christmas coming up and what you're doing again.
I'm doing Beauty and the Beast at the Malthouse Theatre in Canterbury.
Yay! And tickets are on sale now, I believe, are they as well?
They are, yeah, and so selling really well. Yes.
Yeah, so if you're around those parts, or like me and Laura, if you get a weekend off or a day off, go down if you can. You know what Paul's like. He was in at the castle and great fun. So I'm sure he'll be exactly the same at Beauty and the Beast. Paul, thank you so much for speaking to us today. It's been lovely to see you once again.
Pleasure. Lovely to see you.
Perfect. And we've got actually only one more episode of Cuppa Chat coming up after Paul. And Paul, it's one of your other people you've worked with. We're talking to Dean Winters next time.
Oh, he's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's another good episode. So thank you very much, Paul. And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.